for you news. It's Friday morning, February 10th, 2017. Wow, the year just flying by. Breaking: FBI investigation Berkeley Rioters, and you'll never guess why. I got a pretty good idea why. The FBI is investigating identities of black-clad masked rioters who are alleged to have acted as paramilitary force in causing $100,000 of damage. Jesus. How long were they there for? A few hours? From the Berkeley side, in the 6 days since rioters hijacked but peaceful protests against the right-wing speaker Milo Yiannopoulos, may have wondered who these mass marauders actually were. The 100 to 150 people who stormed Sproul Plaza and who UC officials said hurled fireworks, rocks, and Molotov cocktails at police were mostly dressed in black and ski masks or bandanas hiding their faces. See, the prime suspect when you ever come to a riot, like we've learned in the primaries and during Trump's rallies, protesters who cover their face typically are paid. And from the evidence that we've seen, it would appear George Soros, who's overthrown legitimately, democratically elected governments across the known planet, and he attempted to do the same thing here. I'm guessing the people that cover their face are working for Soros somewhere along the line. Rumor has it they get paid quite well as well. Were the troublemakers from the left or the right? Obviously the left, but I'm not sure they really represent the true left of America, more like a leftist, fascist wing. Now the Federal Bureau of Investigation has been called in to help figure it out. Immediately after the protests, which caused $100,000 in damage, geez, that's a lot, and damage to MLK Student Union, so the Martin Luther King Student Union, so that's good. The left would preach that MLK was some sort of hero just as they destroy his stuff. The Amazon store on its first floor and at least one tree UC Berkeley officials described the rioters as acting as coordinated paramilitary force that had essentially raided the campus. There were similarities among the rioters that this report noticed. Many of them carried the same rounded, long sticks that they used to hold up flags or perhaps to smash windows. Yeah, they all got the same universal stick, probably all got the same mask and perhaps the same flag. Pretty organized. They came in a military fashion. They were well rehearsed, said Berkeley spokesperson Dan Mogloff on the night of the protests. They seemed armed and dangerous, you think? These are people hired to overthrow the United States. Breaking: voter fraud charges coming. Sue will be getting charged. This will be good, I'm sure. At least 31 people could face criminal charges after voting twice in Michigan in the fall election, an official said Thursday. Separately, the State Bureau of Elections said human error, not fraud or equipment failure, caused mismatches between the number of ballots cast in some Detroit precincts and the number of votes. Give me a break. Detroit is one of the most corrupt places in the United States, from what I could tell. And when they did the recount, when they tried to steal the election so Trump won the election, and then they try to steal the electors from him. That didn't work. So they try to do a recount in a few states that Trump had won, that the left typically wins, but they lost miserably. And then when they looked into it, especially Detroit, they found I think it was like 80,000 ballots that they couldn't count because they were like fraudulently cast. So I'm sure this is widespread across the country. The agency investigation followed a partial statewide recount of the presidential race, which raised questions about the safeguarding of ballots in Detroit. A judge stopped the recount after 3 days, although officials said it would not have changed President Donald Trump's slim victory in Michigan over Hillary Clinton. Before the recount was halted, there was an attempt to recount ballots in Detroit precincts, but 68 precincts didn't qualify because of the number of the ballots didn't match the number of people who showed up to vote. Can you imagine if Detroit was responsible for the election or something? It would be like a third world corrupt fraud. Imagine that. 68 precincts didn't qualify for the ballots because they're fraud. Amazing. Some ballots, for example, were left in a tub below an electronic tabulator and not transferred to a secure box on election night. In one polling place, there were 300 voters, but only 50 properly sealed ballots. So Detroit either has a lot of dumbasses in it or frauds, perhaps both. This definitely caught my attention. Scary. Plane flies too close to Air Force One. See what happens. An aircraft in Florida flew closer than it should have to Air Force One on Friday, sources told ABC News. Just gotta drink my coffee here. The plane in Florida flew. The plane, the plane, which sources say was flying parallel to Air Force One as it approached Palm Beach, should have maintained a separation of at least 3 nautical miles from President Trump's plane, which en route to his Mar-a-Lago estate for the weekend. According to one source, two aircraft made visual contact with another. Another source with knowledge of the incident said the two planes were flying parallel and that both were in constant contact with air traffic control and never at risk of a collision. The president's plane, a Boeing 747, is considered the flying White House, and airspace around it while the president is on board is carefully monitored. Officials are investigating the reasons behind the loss of separation incident, which likely include interviews of pilots and controllers. Wouldn't that be the leftist wet dream too, eh? They preach like tolerance, yet they would promote the assassination of the president. Like, that's just straight up criminal mindset. But I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to do some sort of false flag like this. But it matters not, for if Trump falls, two of us will rise to take his place.